Hello, friends. Welcome to Tandavex. Tejas Mk1A versus F-16 Block 70, full analysis. Friends, we all know Pakistan's Air Force backbone is the F-16, and China operates a large number of fighters with similar capabilities and size. That's why I consider the F-16 as a standard opponent. On the other hand, India is acquiring over 220 Tejas Mk1As, so it is highly likely that both fighters could face each other in the skies. That makes it necessary to carefully analyze how such a scenario might play out. In this video, we're going to break it down step by step. Part 1, radar detection and RCS calculation. Part 2, side-by-side comparison. Part 3, battle scenarios. Part 4, timeline of the battle. And finally, we'll wrap it up with some concluding thoughts. So let's get started. Part 1, radar detection and RCS calculation. Let's start with radar and stealth. Radar detection range depends on both the power of the radar and the radar cross-section, or RCS, of the target. And here's the key rule. Detection range scales with the fourth root of the target's RCS. F-16 Block 70 radar, AN/APG-83 Sabre. Official max detection, 135 kilometers against a 1 meter target. Tejas RCS fully loaded, 1.5 to 2 meter squares. Scale detection range, 160 kilometers. Tejas Mk1A radar, ELM-20V2. Baseline detection, 110-120 kilometers against a 1 meter square target. F-16 RCS fully loaded, 3 to 5 meter squares. Scale detection, about 151 to 172 kilometers. Tejas UTM radar, future batches. Demonstrated tracking, 140 kilometers against a Tejas Mk1, 1.75 meter RCS. Equivalent baseline, 121 kilometers for a 1 meter square target. Against an F-16 at 3 to 5 meter RCS, scale detection is 160 to 182 kilometers. Bottom line on sensors. Tejas radars, both EL-2052 and UTM, detect the F-16 slightly earlier, often by a margin of 10 to 20 kilometers. That may not sound like much, but in modern BVR combat, those few extra seconds can decide the battle. Now that we've covered radars, let's move to a direct side-by-side comparison of the jets. Part 2, side-by-side comparison, feature Tejas Mk1A, F-16 Block 70. Origin India, USA. Roll light multi-roll, length 13.2 meters, 15 meters. Max takeoff weight 13.5 tons, 19.2 tons. Engine GEF-404, 84 kilonewton thrust. GEF-110 or PW-229, 130 kilonewton thrust. Thrust to weight, dial point 95, 1.2. Max speed, Mach 1.6, Mach 2.0. Combat radius 600 kilometers, 800 kilometers. Radar ELM-2052 ASA, UTM, AN/APG-83 Sabre ASA. RCS loaded, 1.5 to 235 Mystic World. Payload, 5.3 tons, 7.7 plus tons. Hard points, 8-9 BVR missiles. Astra Mk1, 110 to 120 kilometers. Astra Mk2, 170 kilometers. AM-120 AMRAAM, 120 to 160 kilometers. WVR missiles, R-73 Python 5, AIM-9X. Gun GS-22 20 millimeter. Cost per unit, 40 to 42 minutes, 70 to 80 mile. Operating cost, hour, 4 to 6 K, 7 to 8 count. Summary: F-16 has more thrust, more payload, and longer legs. Tejas is cheaper, more agile, and has a smaller radar cross-section. In radars and detection, Tejas actually sees the F-16 first. With that in mind, let's now dive into how a battle might play out. Part 3, battle scenarios. Now let's imagine how a one-on-one fight might unfold. No AWACS, no external support, just jet versus jet, beyond visual range, BVR. In the BVR phase, Tejas holds a crucial edge. Its radar detects the F-16 first, often by a margin of 10-20 kilometers. This early detection allows Tejas to prepare and launch Astra Mk2 missiles at ranges of around 140-150 kilometers. In contrast, the F-16 only detects Tejas when the distance closes to about 150 kilometers, at which point it can respond with an AM-120. A Monte Carlo simulation with 100,000 iterations confirmed this dynamic. Tejas detected and fired first in about 70% of cases, while the F-16 managed to react first in around 30%. This proves the engagement is not one-sided, but Tejas usually has the initiative. Within visual range VR, if both jets survive the initial BVR exchange and the fight closes to visual range, the dynamics change. Tejas, being smaller, more agile, and harder to spot, becomes the trickier opponent. Equipped with high off-bore sight Python 5 and R-73 missiles, it can deliver deadly strikes from extreme angles. The F-16, however, has more raw thrust. In a turning fight that drags on, it can recover speed and energy faster than Tejas. That means in prolonged engagements, the F-16 regains some balance. But in short, high-agility exchanges, Tejas often has the upper hand. Likely outcomes: BVR phase. Tejas dominates in most cases due to earlier detection and first launch. WVR phase. Tejas is slightly better in agility, but F-16 can claw back in prolonged fights. Overall, in an isolated duel, Tejas is fully capable of neutralizing and potentially defeating the F-16 Block 70. To make it even clearer, let's step through the timeline of such a battle. Part 4: Timeline of the battle. Here's how such an engagement might unfold step by step. 1. Initial detection. Tejas radar is the first to make contact, picking up the F-16 at roughly 160 kilometers. The Tejas pilot now has valuable time to plan the engagement. 2. First missile launch. Around a minute later, while the F-16 is still unaware, Tejas launches an Tejas Mk2 missile from a range of about 145 kilometers. 3. F-16 reacts. Only as the distance shrinks to 150 kilometers does the F-16's radar finally detect the Tejas. The F-16 reacts by firing an AM-120, but by this point the Tejas missile is already halfway to its target. 4. Missile exchange. The F-16 must immediately break formation and perform defensive maneuvers to evade the incoming Astra, which reduces its ability to maintain a strong offensive posture. 5. Possible outcomes. If the Astra connects, the fight ends here. Tejas secures the kill before the F-16's missile can even close in. If the missile is defeated by countermeasures or evasion, the battle continues. 6. Dogfight merge. Both aircraft close rapidly, and within minutes they are at visual range. The merge brings them face to face. Tejas' smaller size and high agility give it an edge in the initial turns, making it a difficult target for the F-16 to track visually and electronically. 7. Prolonged fight. If the dogfight drags on, the F-16's superior thrust begins to show, allowing it to recover energy and re-engage with strength. This timeline highlights the razor-thin margins of modern air combat, where detecting first, firing first, and surviving the first missile exchange often decides the winner. Now that we've seen the timeline, let's wrap everything up with the bigger picture and final thoughts. And final words. So what does this all mean? Earlier, many assumed the F-16 would always detect and shoot first. But with official radar and RCS numbers, the reality is different. Tejas actually sees the F-16 first in most cases. That early detection, combined with Astra missiles, makes Tejas a very dangerous opponent in BVR. And in close combat, Tejas' agility and smaller size keep it competitive. In short, Tejas Mk1A isn't just a budget fighter. In the right conditions, it's a real challenger to the F-16. Closing remarks. So friends, as we analyze the one-on-one scenario between Tejas Mk1A and the F-16, we saw that Tejas can actually win. But remember, this isn't an isolated duel. If we add AWACS and other support aircraft into the mix, the small advantage Tejas has gets reduced considerably. Until the IAF also enhances its AWACS and support aircraft fleet, the Tejas Mk1A holds only a very limited edge over the F-16. But this entire picture changes with the Tejas Mk2. That's the reason the IAF doesn't want to buy too many Mk1As, even though the government recently approved an additional 97 Mk1As. The Air Force's real focus is on the Tejas Mk2, because that jet has a much larger advantage over fighters like the F-16. With Tejas Mk2, the IAF will have a clear edge in the future battlefield. And in my next video, I'm going to explain in detail why the IAF doesn't want more Tejas Mk1A, despite it being the best fighter in its class. If you like this kind of analysis, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you don't miss the latest updates.